wanted to come on live and isolate this specific subject, which you saw in the thumbnail, which is my experience on October 1st, 2017, which we all know what day that was, the tragic event over at Mandalay Bay, the tragic event for Las Vegas. And I just want to give you my take on it. And I wanted to show you some pictures because I took some pictures that I've never actually published them. There's a lot more that I am not publishing, but I'm going to show you a bunch that I do have, and I'm going to give you my experience. I mean, I wasn't involved per se. Well, we'll get into the story in a minute. That fateful day, October 1st, it's not my personal story. I'll tell you what the happenings were. And before we can do that, let me invite you to like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell button to get notified when I do this again, which is like in 2 hours, but generally 5 times a week. And if you like the sports channel, you know how to do that. Super chat while I'm live. That's the grease that keeps the wheels rolling. I got all the links in the description below. I got let's talk about real quick. Let's not forget our channel partner, Olight, 10% off. Use my coupon code and that link, get you 10% off. And don't forget T. Shanley for the best damn simple men's hair products and face products and skin products and bath products known to man. I use their face products. What do you think? Looking pretty good, right? 30% off. All right, October 1st. Now, let me preface by saying I am going to show you some pictures. We're going to bop up to the other computer, and I'm going to show you some pictures that I did curate that I've never shown. It's the first time anyone's in the entire world has ever seen these. Not that they're so spectacular, and not that they're gory. I have some ones that I'm not going to put up there, and those are just, I took them just for the sake of taking them. I'm not going to glorify the gore and such, and I'm just going to tell you up front if they might be a little sensitive. If you get quote-unquote triggered, or if you were involved in said incident, you know someone who was, or things like that tend to bother you. When I flip over to the other computer, I'm going to do a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That way you can turn away. They're not gory, but they are real. I captured the event and some of the circumstances around it. So I just want you to be aware of that. Let me tell you what my perspective is before we go and look at the pictures. And I'll do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just in case you're, a little sensitive to that stuff. October 1st, 2017. I mean, it feels like ancient news. It's going on 6 years. That's hard to believe. October 1st, 2019 was, pretty sure it was a Sunday. It was Saturday. I think it was a Sunday. Yeah. Around 10 o'clock-ish, I'm watching TV and I hear noise. I mean, it's not like when one of my neighbors used to play Call of Duty in the winter with his windows open. It was just like, dude, relax. But it was perceivable. And I'm like, what the actual? I didn't really think about it because it was sort of like off in the background. Pow, 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 pow. I didn't really think that much of it until it just persisted and it persisted and it persisted. So I went outside, opened the door, put my slippers on. It's 10:30. I'm chilling. Went outside and it's even louder. Pow, 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 pow. So I'm like, what the actual, I'm not that far from the strip. I'm a couple miles from the strip, but I could hear it loud and clear. No ifs, ands, or buts. So in my brain, I'm like, I got to do something about this because I'm the type of individual, or I got to do something. I'm the type of individual who runs towards fires. I got sort of like this knight in shining armor complex. So I go towards things, I'm not just, I wasn't under my bed. I wanted to go see what was what. So I got dressed real quick. I think I had shorts on or whatever. So I threw on the pants, threw on the shoes, and I'm debating what to do. And in the meantime, while I'm getting dressed, of all places, I went to go look because I didn't put on the news. Because the news, you got to wait, breaking story, yada, yada, yada. I didn't know what was going on, but I thought it was. My first impression was, yes, it's an attack, and it could be I got to be careful how I word this, Terrorist attack, because, they've always talked about Vegas and whatnot. So I was like, oh shit. But I put on Facebook. I popped on the phone and I got on Facebook of all things because seems to be like faster reporting than anything else. And sure enough, people were already starting to post, I'm at Caesars, they're locking us down, I'm over here, and, we're being chased. And it just looked like a total shit show. So what I did is I did two things. I got dressed, number one. Well, I did three things. I got dressed. I grabbed one of my go bags. I have two go bags. I have like a survival level go bag with some MREs and space blankets. I'll show you that one day. And I have a medical go bag, and that one contains like basic triage stuff. And I have one in the car too. It has one tourniquet, which I probably should have more, bandages, alcohol wipes, like all the surgical gloves, the thing you put in the mouth if you don't want to like stick your mouth on someone to do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. It's got all the stuffs in there, right? Okay, so I grabbed those two bags, and I already got two bags in the car, but I'm just like, I don't know. Now, why I did that, what I was thinking, I don't know. I just had this emergency mindset. I'm like, but I heard that, all over the place. Now, I'm one of those people. I'll tell you a bit about what's gone on since, before I show you the pictures too. I'm one of those people who are in the camp of, guess I should be careful how I say this. All right. The way I perceived the event and the sounds that I heard, the rat-ta-ta-ta-ta, pa-pa-pa-pa-pa, and all that other stuff, the way I perceived it was that it was coming from multiple locations. And yes, we know that, the story, the official story is one location, one spot, one individual. Now, when I was outside and when I was heading there, I rolled down my windows, and my perception of the situation was definitely multiple locations. No ifs, ands, or buts. I heard from over there, from over there, from over there. Now, some would say maybe that was echo. Maybe that was sound bouncing off. Maybe that was whatever. But again, my perception was multiple locations. So I was like, oh shit. And all the reports that were starting to come in through Facebook was saying the same. I have a dear friend who was actually near the event, and I never questioned as to what he heard, perhaps, but he's the closest person that I know. I knew a lot of people who were there at the concert. I knew a lot of people in law enforcement that ended up showing up, and there's multiple stories about what people heard. And most of the time when people say they heard, I didn't come out and say this for a while, because most of the people who said they heard it coming from multiple locations, they had their like phones taken away and, given back to them blank. And, there was some weird shenanigans going on if you claimed you perceived something different than the official narrative. So I was like always on the D-low with this, but someone brought it up yesterday. I figured, 6 years later, they're going to black bag me at this point, but I'm saying it was my perception that it just sounded like it was coming from all over the place. I mean, there was reports from Mandalay Bay all the way up to like Caesars. People were saying they heard things, seen things, and that was all quelled, or, that's a conspiracy theory and all that type of stuff. But I perceived it. Anyway, I'm driving. So I go down Twain, and I plan on going underneath that underpass we sometimes go to get to Fashion Show and to get to Caesars. And that was my game plan, because I didn't want to go from Mandalay Bay. That would have been like too far around. So I figured, let me go around the Caesars way, get on Frank Sinatra Boulevard, and book up that way and come on the side. I don't even know what I planned on doing, to be perfectly honest, but it just seemed like, something I should be doing, sitting at home on my ass when I hear all this stuff going on. So I'm driving, I got my windows down, and I'm sitting at the underpass underneath the 15, ready to make the right. I make the right turn, and there is everything. People are pulled over to the side of the road, and there is all sorts of emergency vehicles, and police, and SWAT, and state troop. I mean, everyone at this point. Maybe it took me like 15 minutes to react and get my shit together and out the door. By then, it was just everyone was descending. There was helicopters and all this type of stuff. So they had blocked off the street. They had blocked off Frank Sinatra Boulevard, so you couldn't go down that way. So I stopped at the corner of, I forgot the name of it, the turn that you go into Caesars from the back. You encounter the parking lot at first. I forgot the name of that road. So I was like, all right, I'll park at Caesars. Parking lot was locked down. They put the gates down and everything. Went around to the front. There was no place to park, nothing. So basically, there was no place I can go. And as the reality, because you can still hear some stuff, and the sirens and the helicopters, the reality set in that maybe I don't want to be here. Maybe I could be confused with some of the individuals that might be perpetrating such an act, because, I got my go bags are tactical. They got the Molly outsides and whatnot. So I'm like, do I want to be... There's two things. Reality was setting in. There was two things. I didn't want to get confused with one of the perpetrators. That's why I didn't just pull over and rush. I didn't want to get confused with the perpetrators, because then, maybe someone, puts one in me. And I didn't want to get confused for, for an emergency response personnel, because I did have, my bags are... At that time, they were more tactical. Now I've separated. I bought different bags for my go bags and for my medical go bag, my emergency, medical, with all the stuff in there, the bandages and whatever. I toned that down to a slightly less tactical look in retrospect. It's kind of cool to look tactical and have your tactical bag with your tactical stuff and your Olights and your multi-tools and all that shit in it. But in the grand scheme of things, it's probably not a good look, because that in this day and time could be misconstrued. So I didn't want to be misconstrued. Is that the word? Yeah. I don't want anybody running up to me and saying, save me, or something like that, or being put down because maybe I look like one of these transgressors, So I was like, all right, so I did change. I still have those bags, but I changed my go bags, and I suggest you guys do it too. Yes, it's cool to have the camo. Yes, it's cool to have the black and the Molly and all that stuff all over, but think about it for a second, what the perception might be. That's why, I have I have a sling bag that's leather. You guys have seen that. I also have one that's canvas. It's got some Molly on it, and it does look slightly more tactical. And it's the same thing. It's for my iPad. It's for my gimbal. It's for my phones. It's for my spare batteries. But perception being what it is, which would I rather be hoofing through a casino with? something that looks remotely tactical, or just a nice leather bag. Same bags. It's even the same company, but it's perception. So, that was starting to kick in. So I turned around and I headed home. It took a long time to get home, and I felt like slightly guilty about that. I was like, damn, I wanted to do something. And then I felt a little like, what the actual F am I doing? This is way bigger than me. I mean, all I saw was like every law enforcement officer for miles was heading in that direction. I don't know. It was just an odd thing. So I got home, maybe 1 o'clock, 1:30, something like that. And I'm watching the news and I'm on standby and I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to make sense of all the different tidbits. Oh, we saw someone running through the craps pit at Aria. Then someone else is posting, I seen someone at the blackjack tables at Tropicana. And all the casinos were like ushering everyone into rooms, they were telling people stay in their rooms. They were ushering people who were on the floor into the convention centers and stuff like that, and guarding them and not letting people in and out. It was, the town was or is prepared for an event like that, but it was still, pretty much a shit show. The AWS, the Amazon convention, was in town, so all the executives from Amazon were in town. So there was like EP, executive protection everywhere, taking care of all the executives were in town. All the other people were in town prepping for AWS reInvent. So it was, it was high profile people there too. It was kind of wacky. So I waited, I'm researching, I researched, I'm looking, I'm putting my finger on all the pulses. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to wait until the sun comes up, which I think at that time was like 5:30 in October. And I'm going to go with my camera gear. So I had the med bag. And by then, it was already starting to come out, what happened. There was one individual and don't worry. It's just, the stories were starting. This story was going and these stories were going. They were kind of like counteracting one another of what really happened. Multiple all over the place. Oh my God. And one dumbass, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So I got my gear. I got out my Nikon. I still have it. It's sitting in that cabinet right there. It's a D850, super high resolution. That way, if I take a shot, I can crop in on that sucker. And I picked up my 600 millimeter lens and I picked up my 70 by 200 lens. I didn't get a lot of pictures with the 600 millimeter lens because there was a lot to take up close and there was a lot to take far away. So, 600 millimeter, I didn't want to swap them all out and everything. Anyway, I predominantly took a lot of pictures with the 70 by 200, and then I can crop and zoom and all the rest of that. You'll see that in a minute. And I took a lot of pictures. From the time the sun came up, maybe I stayed like 2 hours, 3 hours. It was somber. I mean, everyone was pretty much, for the most part, the victims were cleared off, huge law enforcement presence, huge news presence, just like everyone. I mean, you'll see that in the pictures too. Those people already starting to lay flowers, but still not everyone knew what the heck actually happened. And to this day, we don't know what happened. The last we heard from the sheriff, who is now our governor, the last press conference he gave on the situation, he said that it could take anywhere from 7 to 10 years, I think his statement was, but 7 at a minimum before they released the story. And he used other scenarios that happen in the country, saying like, look, it takes like 7+ years for us to come up and really figure out what happened. But prior to that, there was like a news release every single day. This is, I mean, how much he brought in, where he brought it in from, how he brought it in, where he parked his car, just on and on and on and on. Granger, what are you doing on my feed? So it was transparent. And then one day, everything went quiet. One day, everything went quiet. He came out and he said, these things are going to take time. We're still figuring out what's what. So from now on, we're not going to be doing these daily updates, and it should take about 7 years, maybe 8, 9, 10. I'm paraphrasing whatever he said, before we really know what happened, and we'll give everyone a good, consolidated report. And that's the last we're seeing of Harold. We haven't heard nothing about it yet. Some people, that homeless guy that, we speak to once in a while I'm out there, his wife, is still having issues. There's some funds that were set up. There's people who claim they didn't get the funds. There's other people who claim they got funds, but not enough. And, it's a whole lot of things. There was GoFundMes. There was some federal money involved. MGM was supposed to cough up like $800 million to cover it. I don't know if they ever did. There's a story floating around a couple of months ago saying that one of his neighbors or something like that, he said that he told me he was going to do that because he was disgruntled because he didn't get enough comps at MGM properties, because he was a platinum holder, which seems absolutely preposterous. 2 and 2 ain't adding up to 4 in the scenario, and I guess we gotta wait. And I think if they ever really tell the story, I don't know if they will. I mean, there's a ton of tin hat stuff out there. People claiming, people were on, the FAA site and saw things that weren't being talked about. And, other people claiming they had videos of things that aren't being, I don't even want to get into all that conspiracy theories. You can go check that out for yourself. All I know is I perceived the echo in many, many, many locations. Other people said no. That's all I know about the situation. I've heard some other things, but I'll let you guys decide. But let's check out some pictures. You ready to do that real quick? Okay, I'm going to do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, because like I said, they aren't gory. They aren't gross. There's some sensitive subject matter, and I will narrate what was taking place when I took the pictures. So there's your chance. If things like that upset you a little bit, I recommend that you tune out, go watch one of my other videos, one of my Buffalo videos. Are you ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. All right, let me get this out of the way. Let's get that mic over there. All right, we all know what this is. This is Mandalay Bay. This here is... that is the actual room. Let me blow that up a little bit. Nah, let's not say we did. There's other pictures. This is the actual room. This was taken from across the street at Tropicana. We all know Mandalay Bay. That is the actual room. Those are the actual windows. A little closer. Could zoom in. Again, see how high res this camera was that I took them with. That was one window. That window they already had covered up by that point. This window was not covered up. There's a little better. The individual supposedly smashed those out, and that's where those were his vantage points. This is a church across the street. There's other pictures of that. I thought that was interesting. And all the offices were like, look at that. I took this from about 2 blocks away. Look at his face. He's just like, what the actual F is going on? Because nobody really knew at that point. I think that's the same. Yeah, it's the same dude. Church is right across the street from there. I thought this was a juxtaposition. Not that I wanted to get too artistic about what was going on, but a little bit of a juxtaposition of the evil that took place there. Okay. I have several other pictures of these things. What these things were mobile carts that they were like mobile beer carts. I have several. This is the one I chose to use for a specific reason. What people were doing, mind you, citizens were helping citizens. The people who were there were helping the people who got wounded the hell out of there, as well as, emergency service people. And what they were using, these were strewn all over the place. Because if you notice, they have wheels on the bottom. And these are just, coolers or whatever, some type of electronic things, but they were everywhere. I don't know whether they were plugged in or they were self-sufficient, but people use those to get people the hell out of there. I mean, and there was stuff everywhere. So people were wheeling wounded people on these things. So people were helping people. You can see in the background, there's personal items strewn everywhere. I mean, that's a pair of flip-flops, I believe. All right, now we're gonna see some. This isn't too bad, and there's a point to this. This was everywhere. This was honestly everywhere. Everywhere that I was, because at this point, they didn't really have too much closed off. I mean, it was like 6:30 in the morning. So I was walking around pretty much and just kind of looking, with the big camera. I sort of blended in with all the news crews and everything. So yeah, this scenario, I don't have to describe what that is, but it was everywhere. And I'm not showing how should I put this? I'm not showing areas that were pretty obvious as to where people expired because of the volume and the shape and everything, if you understand what I'm saying. But this scenario was everywhere, just absolutely everywhere. And they started to put the tape up. But again, everywhere. And you can tell like the direction that, these sad individuals went. I followed this one to a telephone pole where there was a lot. So in a certain pattern. So I just kind of knew that perhaps that individual did not make it, which I'm not going to show you. Everywhere. I mean, lines, they see that in the background, what they were bringing people on. The other ones, I chose to show this one because it's not covered in humanity, because that was a little, a bit much. So just as an example of how people were helping one another, they did use these things. People were using private vehicles. People were going down there or had pickup trucks at the time because it was a country thing. So pickup trucks, not to be stereotypical, but a lot of people did have pickup trucks. So indeed, people were bringing people to the hospital. It wasn't strictly the ambulances that got people out of there. Whatever picture. That'll give you an idea of the height, the floor that he was on. You see how high that is? All the way across where the people were, where the rest of these pictures are way down in this. Well, you can't even see. I'm like doing behind that, way off to this side. That was his vantage point. They claim he had no training or knowledge. He was just, kind of a goofball that was a collector. I don't believe that to be accurate. Because based on that and the angle, if you know about such things, it's not the run-of-the-mill piker type stuff. This is the actual area. So you have this on this side, and then down here, if you follow the cursor, is that. This is gone now. That's the area that when we're walking around, like the sign, that's the area that's now fenced off, that has all the cameras over there. That is what it is. Just loaded and loaded with emergency vehicles of every type that you could possibly imagine. Like, you wouldn't even think these to be emergency vehicles, yet they were. Okay, now we get into, it's about 6:30, possibly 7 o'clock, and news people, camera crews from everywhere start to show up. And this was the parking lot next to the Tropicana. You can see just about everyone is here. Everyone's carrying around the camera gear. And look at this dude. He's just like, what the actual F? But, he was keeping things in check. Like, all the news people were here. These are satellite feeds. So these people were just blasting all over the place. All right. This picture kind of disturbed me a little bit. The situation itself sort of disturbed me a little bit in terms of, in that parking lot, that was a staging area for equipment, for people, for personnel. People were out there with professional news people were out there with gimbals like I have and cell phones and, sat packs to send them and whatnot. So a lot of this was being reported with cell phones, and a lot of it was being done with, professional broadcast gear. No one was doing interviews or talking about the situation from that staging area. They were coming out. At that time, they closed off this part. You can see over here. And this was the guideline area for news crews. They said you can come up to this line. At this point, like before that, I was able to walk wherever I wanted. Once these went up, they said, this is where you have to stay, behind this line, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So you got this guy doing, he's getting ready for an interview over there. This guy's setting up the camera for his news person and whatnot. However, this is the same area where I took some of those pictures. You see that? Right there? That kind of that bothered me. I mean, it's all through this equipment where this guy's standing. All right, I got, I did the blurry background because I'm a photographer. But this whole area was just covered because people were running away from there down into here for safety. So this was trails and trails of, I'm not going to say the B word, but humanity. And these people are standing in it and putting their equipment in it. I ain't bullshitting. See? It's just everywhere. Now, by this point, people have walked in it enough where it's starting to go. I mean, it wasn't wet at this point at all. But these are people's last moments on this planet. And these guys are tossing gear bags on top and standing in it, getting ready to go, whatever, go live and talk about the whole thing. I did not like that. I said to myself, what other choice did they have? But at the same time, I couldn't find myself walking in it. That's all I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? You feel that? Okay. I mean, there's some other guy's tripod right there getting ready to go. I mean, this is what they were standing in. And you see that? So I don't know. Yes, get the shot, get the, do what you got to do. But I don't know. I have, to this day, I have very, very mixed feelings about this whole thing. I mean, that's actually a little wet. I don't know what time I took that. Don't look at that. And there's you can see, this one was if you watch CSI, you could tell what direction that person was going in, or maybe, this person's body was penetrated by a foreign object at that very moment, if you know what I'm saying. And I thought that was that picture just kind of like, that picture just summed it up, God looking down going, what the actual F are my people doing? But, I'm still here for you. So, yeah, and that's, that's the spot right there. Let's give God some love. What up, bro? Another similar picture. And I thought, like I said, there's some more that I didn't want to put out. There's some more I think I probably should have in retrospect. And this, we know what that is. But for him to just be a disgruntled dude because he didn't get enough comps to be able to go from there, point A to point B over here with that elevation, with that angle, and to say that, it was just a fluke, I'm just not buying it. Sorry. That kind of that was weird too. The moon was up early. Why the moon was up at that point? I mean, look how clear that is. This is maybe 7:30 in the morning. The moon was up. It's kind of freaky. And I'm not exactly sure what that pole was. If anyone knows, let me know. I don't know what that was. But I think that had something to do with the concert. So that's about it. Those are all the pictures I feel like showing. I do have others. Some of them are, they're kind of hardcore. Not that some of those were not hardcore. I didn't know there was the one where, it was still wet. And that one, I probably shouldn't have put that one in. But this isn't to glorify the situation. This is my take on it. We should not forget events like this. We should not drop our guard because of things like this. And, if you're upset, I was upset too. Can't blame you. We should not forget things like that. We should always be prepared, which I preach and preach and preach. Be prepared, be prepared, be prepared. Because you never know. Be aware of your surroundings, but you can't live in fear. After that situation happened, I was like in I just got on Facebook. Like Facebook was like new to me when that situation happened. I was on it for a couple of months or whatever. You got to be on Facebook. That's how you make business. And I just had I moved back to town right before that too. And I went and I was on Facebook, right? And people were like, the same day this happened, by the time I got home, it was like 11 or 12 in the afternoon. I went out there at like 5:30, got home maybe 11 or so, what else am I going to do? Take, 100 more pictures. So I got home, I get on Facebook because, stories are filtering in. I'm checking out the news and all this type of stuff. And people were like selling stuff. People like real estate agents were advertising open houses and buy Thrive, remember that Thrive shit that was really popular on Facebook? Everyone was like, it was like a it's like a pyramid scheme, multi-level marketing, Thrive or whatever it was, or one of those companies. I think Facebook banished them. People posting stuff like, wow, these are stressful times, with the event that just happened. You need some Thrive. We have this Thrive for mood. We have this one if you're depressed. And I'm just like, whoa, are these people fucking serious? They were like selling shit like used car, like nothing happened. And that's kind of the way this town is. But again, watching news crews step in people's last moments bothered me. And watching people like, try to sell you something to get over it, and just the way this town operates is the show must go on. So, I actually got into a couple confrontations. I'm like, you're a D, I was telling people, you're a D. No one's going to your open house. This is a freaking tragedy. Take a day off. And they were like, F you, because the show's got to go on, because the way this town operates and functions is by the show going on, by not taking situations like that. Not that the town doesn't take them seriously, but it doesn't like to dwell. It doesn't like to, in some cases, it likes to pretend that things like that don't happen, sweep it under the rug a little bit. You can't sweep that under the rug, but you see what happens in town. I posted on the Broad Nation Facebook group, some 18-year-old chick whacked some dude in Luxor not too long ago. It only took a month and a half to put that out, and it's like one paragraph, whatever. But it's not, the mentality here is it doesn't benefit the town to harp on these things. So as a community, we're supposed to be, Vegas strong, hashtag Vegas strong, but, basically everyone got the memo and always gets the memo that the show must go on. Don't just live your life, don't draw attention to it, and it'll go away. And people are like, oh, no one's ever going to want to stay at Mandalay Bay after this happens. That place is just completely effed. Does anyone know? Does anyone remember? But that's human nature, People build their houses on fault lines, A flood wipes away a whole town. 2 years later, people are like, it's a good deal. I think I'll build a house over here. The human attention span for tragedy and for warning is very, very, very limited. We're turning into, with the way we're being... our dopamine through social media is being manipulated. Our attention spans are getting lower and lower, to the point where they can just throw a quip out there and be like, yeah, dude was pissed off because he wasn't getting good comps. Oh, okay. All right. So how much is the room next to it? I wonder if that, excuse me, I wonder if that room is available. Not that I'd want to go in it, but I wonder if they, excuse me, I wonder if they, that's blocked off. I don't know what's going on over there. But, as the story goes, he was, he's no longer on this planet, and that's that. So, he can tell deceased people cannot tell tales, so no one's ever going to know. Lasted about a month. People were dropping off flowers over there. There was a dude who was building all the crosses, one for every person. But for all intents and purposes, it's kind of largely been forgot about. There is a memorial downtown. I don't honestly know where it is. Maybe I'll take you guys one day. But for the most part, it's kind of, it's just another event, even though it was the worst event of that type in United States history. Just happened to happen in my backyard. So, yeah, hopefully something like that will never happen again anywhere. This country, your country, any country, because it's horrendous. That changed lives. It ruined lives. It was terrible. I know people who, who suffered, not like good friends, but I know acquaintances who did. Lost left a lasting impact on me. More in terms of preparedness in case some unfortunate event like that happened again. How does that never happen again, says Laren? It doesn't per se. With the amount of stuff he brought up, I mean, it just boggles my mind that he did that by himself and nobody said anything. Take that for what it's worth. But there have been things put into place that technology in the past 6 years is way more advanced and can pick up on situations such as that way, way quicker. Will it never happen again? I hope not. Could it happen again? I hope not. Was it random? You decide. Me? I don't think so. I think that was pretty well planned out. All we can do is be prepared. And sometimes life is just about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But I will tell you that these properties do have certain checks in place now that didn't exist back then. The Wind Corps has always had some form of highly transparent, not like, metal detectors like the airport, of metal detecting at their entrances. I'm just telling you that. I know these things. They always have. Other places have instituted it, but, kind of where there's a will, there's a way. But now the technology and cameras and all that, I don't think that would be a situation like that would come under greater scrutiny, at least to the level and the volume that individual did it. But all we can do is just be aware of your surroundings, especially in public places. I don't know. And pray, just take care of one another. And that's the other thing on the positive side of this. People really did help one another during that tragedy. Not only like doing triage on the spot or bringing people to the hospital, but the community did come together. Yes, there were a lot of people just standing there doing that and whatever. I felt kind of weird that I ended up being one of them later on, but I figured I wanted to capture it from a historical perspective. But people did band together and come together as a community. I've never really experienced Las Vegas as being community. I mean, there's people here who talk about it. Oh, yeah, Las Vegas we're such a good community. Half the people in this town don't even know the names of their neighbors. So the people who basically say, oh, we're such a tight-knit, wonderful community, most of them are full of shit or they're a real estate agent, one or the other. Because most of this town, we ignore each other. We don't take the time to know our neighbors. There's not a big sense of community per se that people would like you to think. I mean, it's not just me. I mean, I just know this for a fact. People tend to mind their own business in this town, I mean, it's not like you see a neighbor, you're like, yo, don't know his name. There's like a couple people that I know be like, hey, going out of town for 2 weeks, keep an eye on my place. Yeah, bro, whatever. But for the most part, people just like, you're taking out the garbage, looking in the other direction if you see the other guy. That way you don't have to say hello. So the sense of community is like this here in Las Vegas. It's really not a community per se, not like other communities. That being said, when this event did happen, people did come together and it did last a while, like the 9/11 phenomenon where we were all just like bonded together. And yeah, it was like that type of stuff when you have like a common purpose, common enemy, or whatever the case may be. Yes, that took place here, but that is long kind of past. Now, the town does get involved in charity work for vets, for not so much for homeless. That's why, like the Bror Nation, we stepped in much more than a lot of people have. for law enforcement, for things like that. Yeah, there is outreach, but it's generally in terms of money. Like this town is very quick to donate. And when I say the town, I mean the people in the town are very quick to donate to causes, which I think is absolutely awesome because it's easier to give $20 than 2 hours of your time. It's easier to write a check for $100 out of your business checking account than to spend the day, at a soup kitchen. So this town does help, but it's generally in the monetary realm, not in the actual physical realm. Although there is some help out there being given, but that's kind of the way it works.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.